Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Chase with Jace. This is episode number 2 for the 2024 season. Just getting things started here, and glad to be aboard for another season hosting the Chase with Jace. Not only it rhymes with the reason I named it the Chase with Jace is because we're covering the chase for a national championship. That's what the LSU Tigers are going to be doing. I'm a little bit under the weather, so might not be 100% here today, but I got a really good guy coming in that will definitely help carry the load, and that is former LSU national championship quarterback Marcus Randall. Marcus, always a pleasure.
What up, Jace, man? Thanks for bringing me in, man, especially around this time right here, and especially for this big topic right here that we got going on. Just like you just said, we in the chase right now for the 2024 national title right now, and it all starts right now. We get to see a first look at all of the guys that's coming out, all of the new guys that taking on new roles, and we've been there pretty much every practice. We've been there every practice. They've allowed us to be there, and we've been seeing the battles. We've been seeing the different things taking place. The new guys taking these leaderships, and the new coaches that's been there. And if you've been following, then you've been very up to date on what's going on because we've been giving it to you here already.
Oh yes, there's a lot been going on. If you haven't get caught up, well, go to our website, gridironfootballusa.com. We have complete spring highlights for you. We cover about 7 or 8 practices so far. Correct. Is what we got from the media, and then we got reports from what coach has been saying, what players have been saying, just about the spring, and for what we are able to see as well. So for everything, make sure to go to our website, gridironfootballusa.com. But the reason we're doing our second show, if you missed our first Chase with Jay show, it was just kind of like an update through 2 or 3 practices how LSU was doing. Okay. But we got a little bit more of a magnifying scope on everything, so we get to break down a little bit more because we got a little bit more information because we got more practices, and we're going to start off with obviously Marcus's favorite position to talk about, and that's going to be the quarterback position. So Marcus, we all know about Jaden Daniels. He was pretty good at LSU.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good career.
Man, we had back-to-back guys that came in that position, and what's crazy is we haven't been known in the past for having just the top quarterbacks. We've been known for having top running backs, wide receiver tandems that we can put out over the last year, dating back all the way back to really back when I played with Michael Clayton, Devin Henderson, and you always had those 2 guys that always stepped up and made that tandem for the quarterbacks. But they never put a lot of emphasis on the quarterbacks. So you see 2 guys and Borla and Daniel step in and take that thing to new levels and take the offenses to new levels, and that's what we're going to be looking for. So whoever this guy is, which we know is going to be Gary Nussmeier's show coming in to be able to take it over and to be able to do the things that we seen him doing in that bowl game, and hope to see a whole lot more of it.
Yeah, and he's thrown for about 1,700 yards, 11 touchdowns. So he's gotten into games. When he's gotten into games, he's looked good.
Correct.
He actually threw for over 300 yards and about 3 touchdowns against Georgia, the national champions that year, when Jaden Daniels got hurt in the SEC championship game. And we saw him in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Correct. It was his show. So his first ever start, he threw for 395 yards, 3 touchdowns, and led a game-winning drive against Wisconsin. So was the MVP. So we've seen what Garrett's been able to do. We just haven't seen it because Jaden Daniels has been here the entire time. But it's no question that there's no quarterback controversy. Whenever I got in here, people say, oh, what about this quarterback, that quarterback? It's been pretty quiet for the most part as far as who the starting quarterback is. And Joe Sloan is his OC, and he's been the quarterback coach with Gary Nussmeier.
Right. So you got a lot of familiarity there. So go with a guy that's been in the system, that's going to be able to step up, and I just think that room right now is just a great room. Man, you got a lot of other guys in there that's pushing. So I just think that just all around going into the 24th season, that we have a lot of great guys. And like you say, Nussmeier, he's the front runner right now. He's leading. Joe Sloan, Brian Kelly feel very confident in him, going in, and I think the fan base do right now just because of what we've seen him do in that bowl game, and kind of following those spring practices. He's getting a lot of reps. Look like the team rallying behind him, and then and again you got other guys, Ricky Collins, AJ Swan that's coming in right behind him. So man, you got a real good quarterback room right there.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we're going to talk about it. This spring, I've actually seen more of AJ and Ricky getting work in because you kind of know what you already got in Garrett Nussbauer,
Correct.
but that's the biggest thing. And I asked Brian Kelly a question about this. It was about the O-line, but he mentioned the backup quarterback situation in that answer. So it showed you the competition right now it's been pretty crazy, been pretty intense. I mean, from what we're able to see, maybe one practice I'll be able to have access to go to, AJ's second team reps. So that's the Vanderbilt quarterback transfer, AJ Swan, and then you go to another practice, it's Ricky Collins can work with the second team. And sometimes when we're there, they're flip-flopping in the same practice, second team quarterback reps. So both come from different situations. You coach one of them, you coach Ricky Collins, and you know you have a really better insight than anybody in what kind of player he really is. And then it's two different style quarterbacks. You got one that's a dual threat, very talented, can throw it, got an arm, and can make plays with his feet. Just haven't seen him a lot out there. And then you have AJ Swan, who maybe not as much upside as Ricky, a little bit more experience in the SEC because he starts 6 different games. So you got two different players really battling for that second spot right now.
And again, that's a good thing right now for coaches. I know that man, you want to be able to have that number 2 guy ready to go, because you never know. It's still football, so you want to be confident in knowing that if anything happens, or if you ever have to have a guy that's ready to go, you got that guy in your stable. So to have those 2 guys right now competing, pushing, and you have to give AJ Swan those reps right now because you done brought him in from Vanderbilt. And you definitely want to see him, get the reps so you can properly evaluate him, and basically see who he is, what he could do. And you have a young Ricky Collins in there that was able to come in last year in the spring, come in early. So he's, he's going into his, pretty much to his second year,
right,
and his second spring. So you have a guy, the offense didn't change. Again, you talked about Joe Sloan. That was his quarterback coach last year, so he got coached up by him all spring last year, all during the football season. So you got a guy like that that's, talented as he is, ready to go, and ready to make that push to be QB2.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good push, but you mentioned about even though AJ is the more experienced quarterback, Ricky's got more experience in the offense, and that can give him definitely a leg up.
Correct. So nothing can substitute for game reps. Now, I will say that. But again, when you start talking about quarterback and having to know the system and know what everybody's doing, and to be, time purposes, be on your reads, to be on your stuff like that, to be in the offense already, definitely got to give you a leg up.
Yeah, we'll see. Brian Kelly's going to get both those guys a lot of reps in the spring game, so that might be the tiebreaker right now. Whoever has the better game in the spring game, who gets the leading job. And then also there's the 4th quarterback coming in, kind of like what Ricky's situation was last year, Colin Hurley. Very talented quarterback. I've talked to him once or twice, very mature above his years. He turned 17, but he kind of approaches life like a 25-year-old already. He's very mature, but yeah, he's still really a baby. Garrett Nussbauer told us he just turned 17, and he told him happy 13th birthday to mess with him. So highly talented guy, but this is a guy that we're not really talking about, but he's really young. This is a guy that should be going through his senior year of high school. He graduated a year early. So what do you think about the benefits of a guy like that maybe has to miss his senior year, but instead sacrifice that to enroll early?
Well, I think all the things he's already done in high school. I think he pretty much, at that level where he can go in and move on up to the college ranks, and then be able to take this year as a learning year and kind of get the speed of the game, kind of get used to college schedule. Like some of those guys do when they go to like a IMG. You can basically have that kind of a prep year, come in, see it all, get familiar, and you still have 4 years left of to actually play. So when we start looking at guys doing stuff like that, I think you're going to start seeing more guys, try to look at those avenues of getting out early and being able to come on. Like you say, Ricky did it last year, came in early, and be able to just come in and get used to the offense.
Well, we'll see what the play caller now. Joe Sloan is his first time in that role. He's always been the quarterback coach. Now he's the offensive coordinator. With Mike Denbrock leaving to go back to Notre Dame. This is what Joe.
It's been about a do-your-job mentality, right? Obviously, anyone who has had the opportunity to watch Garrett play, he's got a ton of arm talent. He has unbelievable vision, and he can deliver the ball in a lot of different ways quickly. His big thing has been playing within the structure of the offense and understanding when to take maybe challenge a throw, right, and when not to. And that's been the big emphasis, right? Is making sure just from a do-your-job mentality and having tight feet. When Garrett has tight feet and he has his feet underneath of him, he makes really good decisions. And so it really is a technique thing, which is in his control. So we try to keep him focused on that. I've been really, really pleased this spring with how he's done that. But then also taking over the leadership role. I think, you watched and I read I think Mason Taylor's comment a couple weeks ago, which was really cool to see. Just when all of a sudden Garrett got his opportunity in the bowl game, you could see him step into that role and the relationships that he had built over time, the work that he had put in. Guys respect that. They respect work, right? They respect work and they respect if they know you care, right, about your teammates, and they respect guys who are going to go out and do their job to the absolute best of their ability. And I think that's how Garrett's stepped in and maybe taking advantage of his new role. So it's been really good to watch, but I think his vocal leadership has really grown. But I think he's playing within himself. So it'll be fun. We got a lot of work to do between now and August, but a lot of really good things so far. Watching, and I told Ricky this over the last probably 4 practices, again, just going back to some technique things, he's really getting to his backside, and when he gets to his backside, he's in rhythm, and when he's in rhythm, he does some really good things. Really playing quarterback, right? He's just starting to manage the game, manage the play, go where the ball's supposed to go, where where the defense tells us it's supposed to go, delivering it on time, and just seeing a lot of growth in that standpoint, as well as he's a passionate guy. And that's something that we love about him, and making sure that he keeps that passion to where the guys will follow him. And I think just his growth and maturity and experience within the offense. But I've been really excited about the last several days that he's had, being in rhythm and doing it from a do-your-job mentality standpoint has been really good. I think AJ coming in obviously played a lot of football. And when you can see when he's comfortable, right, we do a lot of things on offense. And when he's comfortable, he's been really, really good delivering the ball on time. He has a really quick release. And when he's not comfortable, and that's the biggest thing for him. And you go back to even a couple springs ago when you got new guys in the offense, right? When we had all the quarterbacks in a new offense, it's a lot, right? So I gotta be sharp mentally, and I gotta know the assignments. When I do that, then it can come out who I am as a player. So when he's doing that, he's really, really good delivering the football on time. And that's what he's just got to continue to grow within the offense. And that'll be huge for him over the next couple months. But I think both of them have done some really good things. We just got to be more consistent at that position. And that's going to be the huge thing, right, is who can show that level of consistency, right, all the way from top to bottom. Colin Hurley has the talent that we thought, right? When guys come in, you kind of say, okay, what kind of talent level do they have? And, we're right. We're excited about where Colin's at, the talent level he has. And I think you've seen some improvements from an accuracy standpoint that are showing up consistently. His biggest thing is, right, when you're a freshman coming in, I don't care where you're from, what high school you play at, doesn't matter. When you're a freshman coming in, everything's going really, really fast. What's been really positive is even as things are going really fast, he's able to see space and deliver the football, even if maybe he doesn't quite know exactly what's going on all the time. So he just has some natural things that you really like. And again, he's a really good learner. He's a really, really good learner. He's attacked it the right way this offseason coming into the spring. And I'm excited to see what kind of growth he can have over the next, going into the fall. And that'll be huge for him. The guys that attack it on their own, right, when all of a sudden we got to go on the road, the guys that attack it on their own, those are the ones, right? Those are the guys who really make the strides that we need to make. But I'm extremely excited about the quarterback. We got a ton of talent in there, and play on the field will end up separating those guys.
All right, we are back with the Chase with Jace again, and you just saw the little audio clip during it about what Joe Sloan said about the quarterback situation right now. Now we go from quarterback to, I know was always your best friend, right? The running game, the running back position. Yep. That's always a quarterback's best friend.
I would say the O-line. I mean,
right.
I take the running back too as well. Yeah. Part of the equation.
Yeah, right. That's a big part of it. A good running game definitely helps. And they're going to try to do that. I know that Brian Kelly said that he's going to try a lot of 12 personnel this year just because of the O-line that's coming back. We'll talk more about the O-line, but the talented running backs right now. So throughout spring, it's been pretty actually thin at running back because you've only gotten Josh Williams, who has had himself a great career and was not really supposed to be in this position, was a walk-on and kind of built his way up, has become a reliable back at LSU, and he's back for a 6th year with LSU. It's been a great story at LSU. And then you have the guy, kind of like your prototypical, like Ali Broussard, Leonard Fournette, like freak show, and Caleb Jackson right now, and a lot of people have been raving about Caleb as maybe being the next big running back at LSU. You got a chance to coach against him once or twice. So, what do you think about Caleb and because he has a chance to be a bell cow this year because there's not a lot of running backs in the room right now.
So you talk about Josh Williams first.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Basically, the guy that came in, last year did what he needed to do. He had a great year, and you get him back, like you say, for 6 years. So you have a guy like that can lead your room, not only by his experience on the field, but just in age and, be able to lead and help a lot of those young guys that's in the room with him. And then you talked about Caleb Jackson, another, like you said, big guy, powerful guy. He got a lot of good speed with him. So, I mean, you're talking about, the history of that running back room. So you're talking about, and you mentioned it, maybe you got Toefield. That didn't come through that. You kind of remind me more of him.
Sure.
Love Brandon Toefield, big load that can run as fast, that can, have a whole bunch of carries. And then you got the speed of a Leonard Fournette. So you got a big guy there that can, I think he's ready to take it on. He haven't had a whole bunch of wear and tear because he didn't play much his senior year. Right. He didn't play much. He kind of got banged up there in that first game against Southern Lab, and then he kind of pretty much just rested that whole year. Got his body back up and right, and then we was able to see a big part of it toward the end of the season last year after they started playing him and putting him in those games, and you seen him running over guys.
Show some flashes.
So you see those flashes. So excited to see him, and they've been praising him big this whole spring.
Well, those are expected to be the two guys carrying the load. I don't think it's really a starter and a backup. It's 1A, 1B with Josh Williams and Caleb Jackson. But the question is really the bodies behind them right now. Caden Durham is a freshman that will be arriving in the fall from a 2-time state champion from Duncanville High School in Texas. And that's the third running back, and probably the biggest question is Trey Holly. With his situation right now. But it turns out recently that Brian Kelly gave us an update on Trey Holly. So it turns out the attempted murder charge for Trey Holly has been dropped. So that was the worst of it, obviously. So Brian Kelly talked to the media and gave an update about Trey Holly.
Yeah, I was obviously, like many of you, the first that I saw of it was, I think somebody released it on social media. I was we had a coach's clinic, and his head high school coach came up to me, who was here at the clinic, and told me that the serious charges were dropped. And so, we were confident based upon information that was shared to us, but you just don't know. I mean, we know Trey Holly. We've been with him. We advocated for him to continue his schooling, and we were happy that he was able to continue his schooling here as an online student. So he's maintained his eligibility because of that. So we'll be, obviously monitoring and making sure that, I think they're talking about, sometime in the middle of April that we could see a full resolution to this. At that time, we'll begin the process in assisting him for reinstatement, and we'll advocate for him on his behalf. and welcome him back.
And that was Brian Kelly and what he had to say about Trey Holly. Really good news. And it looks like that he's back as an online student, so he's back at LSU taking classes. And so it looks like that this is promising. He's still got to go through a couple of different trials and everything, but the worst is really behind him. And the justice system, we have to let the legal system do their work. And right now, things are looking up for Trey Holly to maybe potentially return in the fall.
That's big, man. For him, for the program, for his family, and hopefully, that the justice system can, push through, and we can go ahead and see Trey Holly, because I know he got a bright future there at LSU, and you definitely don't want to see, guys getting caught up in these kind of situations. I know we preach all the time about, being at the right place or being at the wrong place at the wrong time.
And being with the right people.
Yeah, being with the right people. So, a lot of those things, maybe still talking about guys that's, fresh out of high school, that still have, guys that he's affiliated with since he was young. And so when you have that, but then on the flip side of it, man, when you've been given a whole lot, then, you basically got to have a different outlook on things. But glad to have that guy back in the stable, and I'm going to be looking forward to what he's going to be able to bring to the table, because another big-time running back.
Absolutely, that was really huge for LSU, and I don't know exactly the whole situation there, but talking to him back in high school and interviewing him and being around him, I mean, he's always been a guy with a smile on his face, upbeat attitude. So this doesn't really reflect on just the person he is going through this. So it looks like everything's worked out, and hopefully the best is to come for Trey Holly. So we go from the running backs to the receivers. LSU does want to run the ball, but Marcus, you thrown through some pretty good receivers back in your day, and it's just been the thing in LSU. It's been a wide receiver you. It seemed like every time we go through every year, it seemed like it's been a really good duo. Just look at the last couple of them. You had Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham, one year.
Right.
You had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson another year.
Right.
Look at last year. You had Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas. And right now, just from what we were able to see, looks like the next duo, big wide receiver duo that can come at LSU could be Conor Lacy and Chris Hilton for right now, what they've been able to do.
Yep, man, those big-time guys. And, a lot of those guys made some plays last year, got a chance to get in there and make plays, so you have a chance to see some of the things that they're able to do. And you talked about Conor Lacy. I know he's going to be a big-time player, and these are big guys, too. Chris Hilton, and guys that can actually fly. Then you're going to also have some of those guys that's going to be able to work the slots for you. So, that tandem there, and with an experienced quarterback coming in, and with the running game that we just talked about, man, this offense is going to have a chance to do some real special things, just like we've seen those offenses do over the past few years.
Well, what Conor Lacy is doing right now, it reminds me a lot of what we saw from Malik Neighbors in the fall.
Right.
Every time we went out there, Malik Neighbors made at least one circus catch, one crazy over two people, one-handed, you name it. Every day we got out there, he made one crazy catch. Same thing with Conor Lacy.
Right.
Every time we've been out there for practice, he's made one crazy catch after another. LSU's actually released some on Instagram and on social media, and Brian Kelly said that he's actually more focused. The thing about Conor Lacy, we always knew his talent. We always knew he was super talented. He had some drops last year, but he's consistently making those catches. He can be a number one, and right now he's approached that. And for Chris Hilton, it's about just staying healthy with him.
Right.
That's kind of been the biggest thing about them. But kind of like the quarterback situation, we know who the star two wide receivers are. The question is, just like quarterback number 2, who's going to be wide receiver number 3 in this offense? Right. And that's been back and forth. And I know you know some of these names, but Aaron Anderson has been in the lineup.
Came from Carr, transferred in. Mm-hmm. And Kyle Parker.
Parker's been in the mix.
Another young guy.
You've been high of
Dallas,
since we talked about.
Yeah. So you got guys in that room, that's ready to take over. But I think maybe, I think that number 3 spot will come down to those 2 guys. But I know they also got a couple other guys that's out there that's making some impact.
Yeah, and then they got 2 transfers that come in, and those are the guys that you're referring to, Marcus. C.J. Daniels, he's a Liberty receiver, had over 1,000 yards last year for Liberty. He's a big, physical receiver. Like, he's been getting some reps in the 3 spot I could see him getting a start there. You have Zavon Thomas, who probably would have more of a role in punt return and kick return. Special teams has been a problem for LSU like the last 2 years. I would say so. And then there's a guy that Joe Sloan has been talking about. Like when he met with the media, he decided to leave one more name in there before he left. Like I got point out to my man Shelton Sampson as well, who's been from Catholic High. He's been getting better, and it has seemed like he's been improving over the course of the spring, which is good to see.
Yeah, and can't leave him out of that mix. Because, I mean, coming in, he has one of those upsides, kind of like a lot of those Brian Thomases and a lot of those guys that's been there. Coming out of Catholic High, a big tall guy that can run. Speed, that got hands. Again, they're just his second year, going into his second year. So, man, I look for midway through this year, toward the end of the year, I look for him to be able to come on strong too as well.
So this is what Joe Sloan had to say. We kind of know about the veteran guys already, but in case you're wondering about C.J. Daniels and Zavon Thomas, this is what Coach Sloan had to say about those two guys.
I think one, C.J. just brings. He's such a level of consistency. You can see the experience and how he plays. He's an extremely smart player, and he's physical, and he is strong through the catch. I think he's going to be a huge piece for what we're doing in the fall and putting him in different positions where he can use his strengths so that we can attack this conference, right? And I think when you look at, obviously, right, we spoke about the returners a little bit, but CJ, the level of leadership that he's brought to the room and consistent work habits, it's been really good to see. And the challenging thing for him is he's learning, right? Some of these other guys who have been here, they know, right? They've run these plays multiple times. He's learning. So every day out there, he's learning and he's getting better. And as we've watched through spring, just our ability to say, hey, we need a big catch, we can go his way, and he continues to produce. But I'm excited about what he brings, probably even more from a toughness standpoint, a leadership standpoint, and a consistency standpoint. Because that's something that's critical, and that's if you want to win championships, right? Your guys have to play that way, and he brings that level to us. So I can't wait to watch him this fall. But it's been fun to watch his growth within the offense, and I think he'll have even a bigger August camp. Just as we finish out, it'll be fun to watch him these next 2 weeks. Zavon's explosive. I mean, earlier in camp we had him a jet sweep, right? And he's able to you can just see he has such a feel for space and holes. He's made some really big plays down the field. He's got a lot of speed. But I think ultimately, right, trying to get him the ball in space and maybe create punt returns on offense, right? We want to create punt returns on offense. And we'll have the ability to do that with him and as well with Aaron. I think Aaron's played a really good football as well, and Kyle Parker, different guys who have the ability to maybe work small areas. But Zavon's been just a treat to have here. And again, I speak to his level of toughness. And I think that's been what's probably been the most exciting for our offensive staff and those two guys walking in. They're both tough football players, right? They're tough football players, and that's going to matter for us in the fall.
So he's pretty excited about those two guys and what they really bring to the table. And, one of them, he's just big, strong, physical. The other guy's a speedster. You could run a bubble screen with him, and he could take it to the house, that type of guy, kind of like Aaron Anderson. Brian Kelly told us, Marcus, that there's 7 guys that can play wide receiver that he's got. So maybe not as top-heavy with the names like coming in, like we knew about Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas coming in, but you got pretty good depth right there at wide receiver. And speaking of depth, we're going to tight ends right now, Marcus. And Brian Kelly, Joe Sloan have both said the same thing. They want to evolve the offense around Mason Taylor. That's how high they are on him. He had a breakout freshman year, remember? The game against
big
Alabama?
Catches, Bama, yep. Multiple big catches, and you really didn't
see as much
last year.
Yeah.
But again, coming in, we already knew that Brian Kelly liked the tight ends in the offense, liked to get them acclimated into the offense. So again, we saw a lot of it his first year, and I think now with Mason Taylor coming back, and then you got other guys that have been added to that tight end room too as well. I think that we're going to see that position be what I think Brian Kelly want to see.
Well, don't take just our word for it. Joe Sloan said that Mason Taylor is one of the team's best football players. See what he had to say about Mason Taylor.
Yeah, I think, well, Mason Taylor is one of our best football players. He's an excellent football player. People know him, right? LSU fans know him for the last 2 years, and just his consistency and his ability to make plays. And I think we want to find ways to get him the ball. And I think you could see Nuss working his way, or, obviously we're going to go where the read takes us, but putting him in positions where he potentially is a first, second, or third read, where the ball maybe will find him a little bit more. But I think, just from a consistency standpoint and an experience standpoint, he obviously brings a ton. And I think he's one of the best tight ends in the country, and we definitely want to utilize him that way. But I think our other young tight ends, when you look at Pimp and Mac Markway, just how they've grown and how we're trying to grow the offense and use those guys more multiple. When we first got here, that was a room that really had to be rebuilt. And Coach Kelly and Coach Denbrock started that, and obviously they have a huge, Coach Kelly has a huge history with tight ends and what he's done with them over several years. But we wanted to grow that room, and I think we're close, right? We're close to getting there. And if, when you guys had an opportunity to be out at practice a little bit, I think you can see just how we want to use those guys a little bit more, just within the framework of what we do on offense.
Yeah, he raved about Mason. I mean, he said that he's one of their best football players on the team. So that says you a lot about Mason Taylor. And you mentioned about the other guys right before we showed the quote.
Right.
But Mac Markway played some last year. Even got in action against Missouri. Caught a touchdown pass last year. And then Kamarian Pimpton was a guy that I saw a lot through fall camp last year. He was making circus catch after circus catch. He kind of reminds me of like a Jimmy Graham.
Right.
Just a big receiver that could just goal line threat. You could just throw it out to him and he'll come down with it. You get another guy in Trey Green who has a chance to be, and you coach against him too.
Right.
He has a chance to be one of the best tight end recruits LSU's ever had.
Right.
So that tight end room is getting pretty full right now.
Yeah, it's getting full, and I'm eager to see what those guys do. I mean, Trey Dez, I mean, you just talked about him, Trey Dez Green. I mean, I coached against him last year, and Zachary actually had him playing a lot of wide receivers. So think about that matchup.
Oh, man.
A little cornerback stuff out there with him, man. And he just won the Warwick Dunn award for Player for the Year. So, man, I'm looking for some great things out of that tight end room, and I'm ready to see what Mason going to bring to the table.
Called his first game of varsity action against Episcopal when he was at East Louisiana.
Okay.
They threw him up. He wasn't even on the roster yet. They threw him up, the ball up 4 times. Came up with it all 4 times for touchdowns. I was like, he's a cheat code. 6'7",
right.
240 pounds that can run like that.
Yep.
It's absolutely insane. So we go to the big guys. This is your best friends. These are your best friends right here.
He's my guy.
Offensive line. And right now, Garrett Nussmeier, he likes his group of best friends because this offensive line group has a chance to be one of the best LSU has ever had, just from the starting 5. Because you look, 4 returning stars are coming back. Your tackle is as good as anybody out there when you got Will Campbell, and then when you got Emory Jones as well on the other side of it. So you got those 2 bookends right there.
Right.
And then you have your both guards coming back too, and Garrett Dellinger at left guard and Miles Frazier at right guard. So those are 4 returning starters that they all play with each other for this is their 3rd year together.
Okay.
So that offensive line is such a chemistry position. So it's really good to get all those guys together.
Yeah. But man, that's big. And coming in, I think Brad Davis done a great job of building that room out. I think he knew what it was he wanted to see and what he was going to need for that offense to be successful. And I've been seeing him go year in and year out on building that room up the way how he built it up. And when you got those two guys on the edges, Emory Jones and Campbell, man. I mean, you talking about guys that came in as freshmen, doing it at a high level, and now we're going into year 3 with those guys right there, man. You talking about, like you just stated earlier, one of the best offensive line. I feel like in 03 we had one of the best.
Oh yeah.
Lines. Man, we had Ben Wilkerson, center award. You got Andrew Whitworth that just finished playing. One of the Iron Men of the football, and then you had Stephen Peterman.
Stephen Peterman was a good one.
So you had a lot of guys, and it kind of remind me, and those guys had been playing together for about 3 years when we won that national championship in 03. So you're talking about chemistry, you're talking about being able to see, guys work together that understand how the next man going to play on side of him. And when you got all 5 of those guys moving in the same direction, I mean, you got something going offensively.
Now, they do have to replace their center. That's kind of the biggest position on the offensive line,
Right.
is the center. But DJ Chester is a guy coming to his second year, and the coaches really love him. And like they've bragged about him. He actually went on the road already when Charles Turner got hurt. He went on the road, and that's the toughest place you could do at center,
Right.
and performed pretty well. And the coaches have been raving about him since he's come in as a freshman. But he's got the advantage of leaning on veteran guys to help him, even though this is
But
first year as a starter.
Yeah. That's what I was going to, and that was just what I was going to say. Basically, you look for your center to be one of your guys. You're more outspoken to kind of be like the leader of that line. But he won't have to do that with those other 4 guys that he has. They're going to basically be able to help him, and they can make calls out just as well as he's going to be able to make the call. They're going to be able to see it. So that's going to, free up some of that on him, and I think that's going to allow him to play at a higher level.
Joe Sloan was asked about DJ Chester, the starting center. What has he seen from him through spring so far?
Center is a hard job. Is a hard job to do, right? Every play you got to talk, you got to communicate, you got to get everybody on the same page. Then you got to snap the ball, then you got to block, right? And I think just how he, as a second-year player, has been able to go out and communicate effectively, consistently. And then the physicality he's still able to play with, right? Even as much thinking as he may be doing, playing with the physicality. And I think, that's what's been really interesting to watch. And he has 4 returning starters around him, right? And he's a second-year player, and his ability to step in the huddle and communicate and take charge has been really good to see. I think he has a lot of the traits and qualities we want this program to be about, that Coach Kelly built this program on moving forward. And that's something I think already is showing at his young age, and I think will continue to show, and he'll be a great leader for LSU for the several years to come.
So a lot of high praise from Joe Sloan about DJ Chester and his ability to communicate, and he's got a lot of good qualities that he really likes in DJ Chester. Now, the question is, right, you need depth, right? You need depth on the offensive line because, I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal down in the trenches. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have bugs. You're going to have stuff like that happen. So you need the next guys coming up. But there's been 2 guys that have been stepping up to the plate right now, and they're both at tackle too.
Okay.
Tyree Adams, he's from St. Aug. He's a second-year guy. And then Borla, who's an LSU legacy. His dad played offensive line at LSU. And they're both they both been getting first-team reps in there because – like Brian Kelly said about these guys, you'll get a chance to hear it right here, but Brian Kelly said that why even put Emory Jones, and what we already know what those 2 guys can do. Let's get the backups some roles and some reps in the first team because we know what Will Campbell and Emory Jones can do.
And that's what the spring for those guys to get those reps. And even though we know we got that, that first group pretty much solidified, man, you definitely want to find those, next guys up. Because, I mean, you going into a season, I always wanted to have about at least 8 to 9 O-linemen that I knew I could trust to be able to play with throughout a whole season. So now you're trying to build that pretty much put us at 7 right there. And, man, obviously, if we can get a couple more to get on board. But, you got to give them the reps. Got to put them in there so they can get used to taking reps along with other guys that's on that first team.
I even asked Brian Kelly about this, about Tyree Adams and Bo Borla. This is what Brian Kelly had to say to answer my question about how those 2 guys are doing.
We got to get these guys into the action. I mean, one injury or one ankle that these guys need to play, and they've been around, and we think they're talented players. We just got to give them more reps. We know what we've got with those 2 that we talked about in Emory and Will. I don't know that we need to run them every rep in the spring. So, I think Brad's done a really good job of getting those guys many, many more reps. And I think it's a good thing for us to build that kind of, key backup, if you will, where there's a couple of positions I think we need key backups. And the other one that we're working on is the key backup at quarterback. And that position needs to continue to grow as well. So my eyes are on those areas, at the tackle position and certainly at the quarterback position. We need some key players at those positions. I'm really pleased with the wide receiver group. I think there's 7 guys there that are going to make up for the loss, of 2, elite players. And those 7 have done a really nice job for me in terms of what they've done, the first half of this spring. We need to see more from the key player at the quarterback position and certainly at the tackle position.
Yeah, it just comes to show you the job that you mentioned, the job that Brad Davis has done with this group and how he has really built this group, because he was actually one of the original coaches on Ed Orgeron's staff that he kept. And so far it's become a good dividends for Brian Kelly to keep him on staff.
Yep, and he's a hometown guy, he's from here in Baton Rouge, so I know he want to do a great job and he want to be able to put things in it, and his work and his, all of the things in his production shown that.
Well, we're going to move from the offense to the defense, and one of the biggest question marks right now on defense is the interior of the defensive line. And right now you have Jacobian Guillory. I mean, that's a guy that a lot of people know about and has played a whole lot. But besides him, you got Jalen Lee, who was a former Live Oak defensive lineman, played at Florida. But besides that, you're getting a little thin right there. You do have a JUCO transfer who went to Georgia, Sean Washington. He's coming in. And you have a freshman already that's enrolled early in Demarion Johnson from Westgate. But that's about it. That's the defensive tackles you have right now that are on scholarship. This shows you how thin they are right now. They moved Kimo Makanoli, who's an offensive lineman, to play D tackle. And when you're doing that stuff in the spring, you're pretty thin.
Right. And because you definitely want to have guys that can take the reps, because you're trying to still see reps on both ways, So you got to have enough guys to go in there. You don't want to get, a certain amount of guys beat up. So now you can start kind of putting, so when you have guys like that, man, you're able to move guys around, see, and help build the depth throughout the spring. And, these may be guys, if you don't have them penciled in to be one of those guys that you're going to use for sure, thinking offensive line, then you can get them some reps at defensive line, because most of those guys probably play both ways in high school anyway.
Well, they do have a pretty good. The problem was the last couple of years they didn't really have a defensive line coach, and now they got one. And Bo Davis is one of the best in the country.
Correct.
Was at LSU at one point a couple years ago.
Bo Davis.
Yep.
Man, he's back, and you've seen the job he did while he was at Texas. Getting those guys up and ready. I know everybody that they remember the famous rant that he went on after. And that's the fire and that's the passion.
Not PG rated.
Not PG rated, but that's the fire and the passion that he always coached with. Since I was there, he was actually up in the weight room then. But now he's been on the field coaching, and you've seen his career and the things he's done with D linemen, and not bringing him back home. I'm just looking for the D line to go to a whole nother level.
Well, Blake Baker, the new defensive coordinator at LSU, talked about how the defensive line is looking like. This is what he had to say about it.
Yeah, I think they're getting better every day. I think Coach Davis is really doing a nice job with them. And we have some pieces to work with in there. We have some guys that have played some football, some new faces, some guys obviously we moved from the offensive line. So I would say it's a work in progress, but I will say that they have shown improvement daily. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Although you're pretty thin, razor thin right now in the defensive tackle position, that's going to be a position, though, that Brian Kelly, LSU, they're going to really look heavily in the transfer portal at. Right. And that's a good thing. And we know about the transfer portal, the more we know it from Brian Kelly. That's a tool that can help you strengthen some positions, but I think you run into a problem when you heavily just rely on the transfer portal all the time.
Right. Well, you can't do that, because if guys get in the portal, it's multiple reasons they can, but a lot of times if they're not really kind of panning out where they are, you don't know what the problems were. I guess that's where you still have to do a lot of research on those guys too. So you don't want to heavily just depend on it, but when you need that depth, and you need, guys that's ready to go right now, when you can't wait on a guy that's, coming out of high school, and you need to build that depth, that's where that can definitely help you. And we've seen it help us already. And, and I think that's going to be a great tool for us, especially on the defensive line.
Defensive end-wise, you're in a much better situation than you are than inside, because you do return Braden Swinson, who we played a whole lot at defensive end. Savion Jones was a guy that played a whole lot of football for you. You also have a guy that everybody's kind of raving about is Deshaun Womack. I mean, you just look at him, look at him, and he looks like a prototypical defensive end at LSU with like Arden Key or Markevius Mingo or Sam Montgomery. He looks like that guy.
Right.
So it's just about getting him more and more reps because he shows some. It's kind of like the defensive version of Caleb Jackson. He showed a lot of flashes, but he wasn't consistently out there. So getting that guy a lot of playing time. Now they did lose a guy to the transfer portal just recently, yesterday, Jackson Howard, who was a 4-star from Minnesota. But besides him, you're at a good position right now on the edges, and you also got Paris Shand, who played a whole lot last year at D tackle, D end. You have him too.
Guy, yeah. So you have them, and you need those guys, man. You need guys that can rush the passer, and guys that have played. So we got guys that have had a chance to really get in the game and gain that game time experience and be able to bring that into next season.
Well, that 2003 national championship team you're a part of had some pretty good edge rushers on the team.
Marcus Spears, Marquise Hill, rest in peace. Man.
Yeah,
had some guys on that. That was coming.
Oh yeah, coming off the edge.
That was in that interior. Chad Lavalier, all those guys. That played on that inside. Man, it was.
There's some dogs there.
Some dogs,
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's about the defensive line group, and we're going to go to the linebacker group, and that's where a lot of the storylines really come in because last year it was the Harold Perkins situation about where you line them up, and Matt House trying to figure out to make that transition to inside linebacker the whole time. Now Matt House is gone. You get Blake Baker in.
Right.
Blake Baker was at LSU before, back in 2021, and he coached a guy that was one of your former players in Damone Clark, and Damone Clark had an All-American season under Blake Baker. So having a guy like that is really good with the linebackers can make a difference when one of your best players at LSU is a linebacker.
Right, and I thought going into last year, moving him to the inside after I saw him make so many plays coming from the outside, as a freshman, I thought he gave quarterbacks fits. Man, he gave them habits, week in and week out. You saw big plays being made. And then this past year, you saw him move to the inside, and you didn't really see as many plays made by him. I know sometimes just as a coaching staff, when you need certain players to be in certain positions, you got to put them there. But I definitely want to see him, play a little bit more outside. But I know they've been putting him inside his too. But I think they plan to use him a little bit different and still kind of send him, more blitzes and stuff like that versus him just playing the run and then trying to play the pass. I think we need to use his strengths that we saw that he has.
Yeah, the $1 million question is, how will Blake Baker use them? Blake Baker, of course, he was addressed that question when they asked about it. He was like, Who's Harold Perkins? But basically, here's his response on how he wants to use Harold Perkins.
No, but Harold is a guy that we can use in a variety of different ways. So to me, we're not going to just put him in one spot and say, hey, this is what you're going to do. But now we have to start him there. Again, we got to start him there. He's got to get really good at the position. And then, again, his innate ability to come off the edge. He's a really good blitzer, as we're finding out this spring on the inside. He's really good in coverage. So there's not much the guy can't do. We just can't overload him with all that right now. But he's done a really good job learning the defense. He's done a really good job improving at inside linebacker. That was one thing even when I told him in the recruiting process, he didn't play inside linebacker in high school. He played running back. He played receiver. They put him at like a monster backer and kind of see ball, hit ball. So it's new to him, but he's really embraced the role. And again, we're going to find ways to utilize his skill set best and hopefully put him on their worst player every single week. So we have a lot of big plans for him, but we gotta crawl before we walk. So, but proud of him. He's done a really, really good job for us this far.
So when he was at Missouri, Missouri led like the country in like TFLs. They're up there at TFLs, sacks. And when he was a DC at Louisiana Tech, he had Jalen Ferguson.
Right,
like Jalen Ferguson, and may him rest in peace as well. But he was the NCAA all-time leading sack leader. That was his DC. So as far as attacking, getting to the quarterback, this could be a match made in heaven with Blake Baker and Harold Perkins.
Well, man, I'm eager to see it. I definitely want to get back to seeing Harold Perkins. making those plays and the things that we saw him do as a freshman, and be able to make so many plays behind the line of scrimmage, and so many big plays, turnovers, and stuff like that, that we know that we're looking for, the, game-changing plays.
So LSU's running a 4-2-5 defense, so that means there's another linebacker too. And this is a guy I feel like that we haven't really talked about, but he's just been consistent. He may be LSU's most underrated player, and that's Greg Pinn. He's played a whole lot at linebacker. He had 89 tackles last year. He's made some plays when the defense was struggling last year, and he's a leader that's been kind of like the vocal guy. Could be a leading candidate for number 18 this year, but Greg Pinn could be the other linebacker when you have him and Harold Perkins. Those are two veteran guys that play a whole lot of football.
Yep, and we're going to definitely need it while we try to stack up that inside with those D tackles that we talked about, and hopefully maybe we can find some of those bigger guys, or some of those guys that we have already step up and be able to play, so we can let those guys be able to play and make the plays that we know they can make.
As far as depth behind them, I mean, you got to go with the Weeks brothers, Witt and Wes Weeks. Mm-hmm. One wears 33, the other one wears 40. And Coach Kelly, he just said today that really Wes, the older one, has had himself a great spring. And we saw a lot of flashes from the younger one last year in Witt Weeks. And a lot of times he was LSU's best defensive player when they were struggling really bad. So you got four linebackers you really like. So in that 4-2 defense, at least you have like a little bit of a rotation going right there.
And again, it's the SEC, man. You playing ball, and man, it's week in, week out, man. Where you playing the best of the best, and you want to definitely have the depth to be able to make the run that you want to make.
And then finally, we're going to go with we'll go a little bit in special teams, but not. We haven't really seen too much of kicking and punting and all that. But DBs, a big storyline, and I think it's got a lot of LSU fans really excited, is that Cory Raymond is back at LSU. So. Long-time cornerback coach, and a lot of people say is the architect of DBU.
Yeah, man, bring them back. I know that the buzz is very, very high right now.
Uh-huh.
So we definitely, after the couple seasons that we've had, and as far as the DB play, I think everybody is jumping for this one, and I think they've been looking for this one to come back and see what Cory Raymond could do. Like you say, we've seen what he produced over the years when he was at LSU, and man, like you say, that's when the saying DBU. I think we was at the top of it.
And that was the biggest question mark as far as position groups are concerned, is cornerbacks, because you just have a bunch of young guys there. So it's really a perfect opportunity for somebody to rise to the occasion that's a freshman or a sophomore for Cory Raymond, because Cory Raymond doesn't know really these guys just arriving on campus.
Yeah.
And the biggest storyline probably from spring is there's a freshman enrollee that's getting starting reps at corner right now, and P.J. Woodland from Mississippi. So Blake Baker, this was at the practice. We saw him get first-team reps at cornerback when they went against the first-team offense. So this is what Blake Baker had to say about a freshman surprise so far in P.J. Woodland.
Competitiveness. P.J. Woodland is he is a competitor. He's feisty. He'll throw it in there. He's physical, and he can run. But more than anything, for a freshman or a high school senior, as you put it, we've thrown him out there with the thrown him out there against our top receivers, and he competes, and that's where it starts. But he's got the physical tools. He's got long levers. Like I said, he's physical and he can run. So I've been really, really impressed by him. It wasn't easy, I promise you, those first 3 days before spring break, he probably thought, "What in the world did I do?" Coming here early. But man, he's been really impressive these last few days.
Yeah, and really, it's just kind of like testing the waters right here. So there's a very talented defensive back. He's long, rangy, very quick, and it's like, hey, let's throw him to the fire. Let's have him cover Conor Lacy,
right,
or cover Chris Hilton, and see how those guys manage to cover those receivers.
And so you bringing guys in like that, and just what I've been able to see, and just watching the football and seeing where it's going, man, you are able to play DBs a little bit earlier. I mean, these guys have been doing covering. They've been doing a lot of 7-on-7, especially when they've been playing in all these different, 7-on-7 leagues and organizations. So they've been covering. So, I mean, you're not asking them to be as brute on the outside, so you don't have to have a whole bunch of, just a whole bunch of weightlifting and a whole bunch of maturity early enough. So, man, you can test those guys and put them out there, see what they can work with, see how their covering is, and then be able to evaluate them from there if you could be able to use him in that secondary. But man, we've seen the Derek Stingley come in, have a young guy come in and make a whole bunch of plays at the cornerback position, and multiple other guys.
Yeah, consistent right now is a guy that stood out a lot during fall camp. He was a freshman too, just kind of like what PJ's situation is. But Ashton Stamps is back for a second year, and he's been playing a lot of football last year because of the situation. So you got him getting reps there. Javian Toviano is another young guy that's played a whole lot last year, that they were trying to put him all over the place at nickel, at corner, but got a lot of playing time, was a 5-star going in, so you have him getting some first-team reps. Zy Alexander was probably the team's best cornerback last year until he got hurt. He tore his ACL before the Alabama game, but he's recovering right now. J.K. Johnson's a transfer from Ohio State. He was here last year, but he tore his ACL. He got out for the whole season. So you have a lot of names there. You just don't have a proven guy there right now. Right. So that's the biggest thing at cornerback.
So that's something we'll be looking for this Saturday to see what guys stand out, what guys make plays, and see where we're going to go at as we wrap up this spring and get ready for to see where these guys going to be placed at depth chart wise and all that going into fall camp.
Yeah, and then you have Jair Browns from Ohio State. He's an Ohio State transfer. Oh, she's like some of those Ohio State cornerbacks coming in. And then Jeremiah Hughes as well. But those are the guys, a lot of names there at corner, just like the quarterback, the backup quarterback position, the cornerbacks, the guys that emerge is going to be something that we'll obviously watch. Now, safety-wise, you're a little bit more veteran there because you do return Sage Ryan, who's getting some looks at safety. One practice we were at, I'm not sure. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm not sure if you want to take it as it good for the defense or bad for the offense. But Sage Ryan picked off Garrett Nussmeier 3 times, one timer in practice. So take it with a grain of salt. But he made some plays out there. It's good to see the defense make some plays every now and then. Yeah, it's like that's the part of spring football. Right? If you're a coach, you're trying to figure out, this looks good. Other hand,
but you have those guys back there, and then you have also backed up in the secondary, you have Major Burns.
Major Burns is back too.
So so that's going to be a good thing. Getting him back from Georgia, getting him in the fire last year, making plays, and then seeing some of the plays he made toward the end of that season and in the bowl game, man. I think that we're going to be solid up on the back end.
And I like how they're using Major Burns because what they're doing is Jordan Gilbert, who was at U High, he's back from Texas A&M. He transferred to Baton Rouge, so they're working right now as Gilbert and Ryan as the 2 high safeties, and they're putting Major Burns in the box in that star position, star role. And last year we actually saw Major Burns get some reps at linebacker with the linebackers, but we just never really saw him getting close to the line of scrimmage. But I feel like that role of him being close to the line of scrimmage helps him and benefits him more than him just being a high safety we saw last year.
So they're putting around the ball. And that's why they call it that star position. A guy that can cover, a guy that can do multiple things, a guy that can cover, a guy that can play the run, a guy that can blitz, and be effective a lot of different ways. I mean, just being honest, I wanted to see some of Harold Perkins in that star role.
Right.
I think that that's what he did a lot of his freshman year, and we saw a whole bunch of plays coming off that edge.
And Brian Kelly mentioned about Major Burns, and we're not going to play the audio clip, but he said that he's raved that Major Burns has been probably the most improved player over the spring, just from last year. So that's what you want to see. There's been a lot of guys getting some reps at safety or at nickel. I mean, Jordan Allen, Kylan Jackson, who was at Zachary, he's been getting some reps there. Ryan Yates has been playing some at nickel too. But a guy that just to keep an eye out for that I've been very impressed with so far has been Deshaun McBride from Denham Springs. He has been making plays in spring when I've been there. He's long. He's about 6'3", rangy guy. Went up against tight ends and just blanketed them and against bigger receivers. So this is a guy just to keep an eye out for Deshaun McBride as far as maybe a guy that can play early and make an impact as a freshman.
Yep. So when you start talking about the guys like that, and when so many other guys start, trying to use the big tight ends and those, big guys on the inside, you would like to have guys that can match up with them size for size, and that's what he brings to the table.
Now, we don't really have much really to report for you for special teams. We haven't really seen much of that. We did see Peyton Todd punt a couple of times, and he's looked pretty good because they have to replace Jay Bradlett. But this is Peyton Todd. So this is time for him to shine because it's kind of like this is the opportunity. If it's not now, who knows when it's going to be, So it's an opportunity for him. And then it's good to have Damian Ramos back at kicker, a guy that's been proven, that's made field goals. So that's always really good to kind of have that mindset going in, like, hey, we could get 3 points if we need to. We'll be comfortable getting that. But that's pretty much, we break down pretty much the whole team, pretty much, from offense and defense.
It's been a good spring.
Yeah.
Good spring, man. A lot of moves being made, a lot of things are being done, to get this group ready to go for 2024.
Now, the spring game is on Saturday. We're probably going to have this posted for y'all the day before Friday. This is kind of like the spring game preview here. So I want to end a couple of things with you, Marcus. What if there's 3 or 4 things that you have your eye on this Saturday that you're looking forward to watching the most? What are you looking forward to watching the most at 1 o'clock on Saturday in Tiger Stadium for the spring game?
I'm looking to see, how this offense moves. I think I got a good taste of it because obviously, Joe Sloan called the plays for the bowl game. But I want to see how these guys come back. I think that the offense should be a little bit ahead of the defense, being that we bringing back those offensive line. I think that's just going to be big. I want to see how that chemistry goes. You never know how many plays those coaches got for those guys lined up, but I want to just see how the offense moves. And then I want to see this new defense. I want to be able to see, how this defense respond to coaching. It's going to be plays made on both sides, but you got a lot of guys in there that's competing, and I definitely want to see the where these guys going to fall at and win this at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm taking a close eye at the quarterback competition between AJ and Rookie because, hey, I mean, if something happens with Nussmeier, that was a privilege you had last year. Like, if Jaden went down, it's like, okay, that's a tough loss, but you have a guy in Garrett that can step in and do a lot of things. It's the same situation here. Who could step up and be that safety blanket for LSU if something were to happen to Nussmeier? Who's going to step up as a third wide receiver? I mean, that's going to be big. I want to see who can step up in that role. Who will have the big plays, whether it's Aaron Anderson, Kyle Parker, C.J. Daniels, any of those guys. See who steps up at wide receiver. Defensively, cornerback. Who's going to be the cornerback that stands out? Right. That does really good. That sticks out. Who is going to be that cornerback? And just obviously what the defense kind of looks like. Now you can't really see too much because it's the spring and they're not going to go 100% full speed.
Right.
But you want to see what Blake Baker, what his format is for this defense, what his plan is for this defense.
So, yep, and I think, man, all the Tiger fans are get a good shot at, what's going to be coming in 2024, and I think that this is going to be big. This Brian Kelly is what's going into his 3rd season as the coach, and man, they say around that year 3, man, you pretty much have it kind of down. But we've seen him, have great years the first 2, and do some great things right here. So we want to just be able to keep that thing rolling and see where we land.
Yeah, not bad situation when he did with 39 scholarship players coming in. So 39 scholarship players coming in, but 10-win season, SEC West championship, goes the SEC championship game, another 10-win season. Your quarterback wins the Heisman Trophy. So, I mean, two pretty good first years for Brian Kelly. But, hey, we'll see what he does in year 3. And we're going to have a good snippet of our first really good look at the LSU Tigers in 2024 at the spring game. Well, Marcus, I know you're going to be doing some shows in the Randall Quarter as well, so looking forward to having that. So looking forward to bringing that back. And any preview of what they should be expecting with the Randall Quarter this year?
Well, I mean, a lot of good news, a lot of good updates, and a lot of different people that's going to be coming in, sharing their program, sharing their processes, sharing their, things that they have going on. So, I mean, if you're a football fan, man, you want to be able to tune in and be able to see all of the great things that we're going to have to offer, all of the good football, savvy things going on.
Absolutely, Marcus. So I appreciate you coming on board with the Chase with Jace. And maybe I'm thinking maybe about once every month or something like that. We'll just come together and talk some LSU football, something like that. So maybe once a month or something like that. But yeah, hopefully y'all enjoyed watching the Chase with Jace. And for all of our content, make sure to go to gridironfootballusa.com. We're going to try churn out Chase with Jace episodes now. We're starting to get in the thick of things. So now with spring football ending, we're going to be looking ahead to the draft coming up, and then we'll get probably some recruits, some LSU recruits, do some interviews with them, and maybe some players as well, current players as well. So hopefully you enjoyed the Chase with Jace, and hey, we'll see what happens with the LSU Tigers when they make their first public appearance of the season and Tigers stay in for the spring game. For Marcus Randall, I'm Jace LeJeune. Hopefully you enjoyed the Chase with Jace, and we'll see what the Tigers will be chasing in 2024.